It's going and putting yourself in those situations to drive and try to succeed. Yet when you fall short, which we all do, right? What did you learn? And now next time you're presented with that, what skill set do you have now to sort of attack that, right? I didn't fall in love with golf because of golf. He would ask if I wanted to get a hot dog.
Who's one of the most prominent people that you can say that you really had to give some advice that, like, I can't believe I'm telling this person this piece of advice?
Peyton Manning.
Hello and welcome to the Green Scene Official Podcast. My name is Matt Green, and today is an incredible day as we're launching the first episode of the Green Scene Official Podcast. We're located here in Greenwood, South Carolina, and today, before I get to my incredible first guest, I just want to remind everyone what the Green Scene Podcast is about. This is a journey. This is a journey of my life, my career, some of the amazing things that I've had to be a part of, whether it be in my career, in my life, some of the people that I've met along the way, some of the incredible things that I've been able to work on, whether it's real estate projects or technology and innovation, whether it's some of the great people in golf that I've learned along the way. And so this is, as I mentioned, is a journey. We're going to talk about a lot of the things that are fun, that people can relate to. And without further ado, I'm going to turn to my first guest. This first guest, the reason I've selected him to be on the podcast is because he's one of my best friends. He's one of my best friends because he's a respectable person. He has incredible integrity, incredible character, and I couldn't think of a better person to join me as we launch the Green Scene Official Podcast. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mr. Shane LeBaron.
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it's awesome to have you on here. It really is, and I'm excited. And I think as we were talking about this show and preparing for some of the things, I really hope people listen because I think we're going to share, a really true, authentic experience between you and I, and how it relates to a lot of things that we're involved with on a daily basis, that we're passionate about. And so I hope people, as they listen to that, they lean in, they buy in. So without further ado, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Shane and I. I want Shane to tell us, just tell us a little about yourself. What you're doing right now, and then we're gonna kind of get into how you and I became friends.
So right now I am one of the partners and co-founder of Olde Eight.
Okay.
In Greenwood, South Carolina.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
In large part due to you. My career has been in golf. I'm a golf instructor, and I've been fortunate to have been at some of the great clubs in America. Had a few awards along the way and teach some pretty fun people, but it's been quite the journey, and to land it here is a dream come true.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and so let's talk a little bit about that, about your journey in golf. You lived an incredible life of golf, right? From an early age with your family. Tell us about that journey, right? Before we get into, because I want to talk about us as friends, but I think you're selling yourself short, just FYI. But talk about that journey along the way and some of the things that have you experienced as it relates to golf.
So I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. My stepfather is a club pro. Mm-hmm. And which is where I fell in love with the game. And the oddball part of that was I didn't fall in love with golf because of golf. Mm-hmm. He would ask if I wanted to get a hot dog. And we would go to the range. And, of course, the range, you'd get a hot dog, and then you take your bucket of balls and you go out and you hit. And what I looked forward to was the hot dog. Well, along the way of going to get these hot dogs, I sort of, liked hitting golf balls.
Yeah, of course.
And kind of one thing led to another. And as all kids do, I played football and tried to play basketball and baseball and everything else, but golf really just took hold of me.
Yeah.
And to the point where I'm 47 years old, Matt, it hasn't let go.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not just something I do; it's a huge part of who I am. And so, got started very, very young. I would work at the golf shop. We called us grunts.
Yeah.
You'll like this. They called us grunts. And so grunts would clean the carts. We'd pick the range, and this is before there were like range pickers that you drove around.
Yeah, right.
Like
The
you're
fancy
looking
stuff.
at the
Yeah.
range picker.
Yeah.
I was the guy. So you'd strap one of those big brute trash cans on the back of a golf cart, right, with those two straps, praying that they hold. And you'd drive the cart out there, and then you had shag bags, and you'd hand pick the range. So we'd hand pick the range every morning, 5 a.m. Clean wash all the range balls, get them set up for the day. Then I'd play golf till it was dark. And with everyone you could imagine, my dad was the head pro at a city-owned municipal golf course. So like I played with all kinds of people, you name it. And I would play till dark and then come in and vacuum the floors, take the trash out, clean the toilets, and go back home, go to bed, and wake up, 5 a.m., pick the range, and do the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started, and it just stuck with me. And unfortunately, I got to play golf with a lot of people that when I was younger, they were a whole lot better than I was, right? And then being in that environment, as a kid, you see people hit shots that you can't hit or you'd like to hit, and you keep working harder and harder to get better, and it just kind of stuck with me. And I guess I'm still, from a standpoint, that same kid working hard to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a really cool story. We're going to get into that a little bit in this episode about, the relationship of life and golf. Because one of the things that I called this the green scene, and I wanted to relate it to golf because I think when you really take a step back, I mean, golf is life.
Sure.
It is life. And I know sports are a big part of our culture today, but not everybody can pick up a golf club and go be successful at it.
Right.
And it's how you react and stuff. But first, before we go there, I want to talk about our relationship and how we met. I often tell this story, and I love this story because as I get older in life, life, it's an up and down. You're single, you get married, you have kids. Everybody's got their own chapter and book in life. And the cool thing about every chapter that I've been involved with, we used to live in the same city. We didn't live in the same city, but we always kept in touch.
Right.
And we always had that commonality, that bond of what is a friend. And so I take great value in that as I'm 48 years old now, that you've been a constant friend of mine for my life, right? For a long time. And I want to talk about that for a minute because I think people in today's society, people think they have friends, right?
Yeah.
But then there's friends.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, what is a friend? And so a friend to me is like somebody that you trust, somebody that has high integrity, somebody that you can call at any point in time and that friend will be there for you. Somebody that will be there for your kids, right? Somebody that's always there as a cheerleader for you. And so I want to talk about that because I think it's really important to understand, as we've grown in society, I think people have lost a little bit of what a friend truly is.
Mm-hmm.
There's family, right? And everybody says, oh, you're like family. But, I think people have lost that meaning of friend. So just talk about that, right? Why don't you tell the story how we met, right? Because you probably tell it better than I do, but I still laugh, right? I still laugh.
So it's interesting. And with you, and me, I'm not a fan of crowds, right? I'm usually the guy, if there's a crowded room, I'm on the outside of the thing. I found a couch or a chair.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sort of observing and checking it out. And this was in Hilton Head 20 plus years ago now. Our wives worked together at a club, and it was their annual Christmas party. And of course I'm trying to be, the supportive husband, right?
Course.
And there's a room full of people. They had a bunch of employees there at the time. And, I'm sitting there and I'd actually met your wife a couple times and gotten to know her and I'm sitting there and I'm not talking to anybody. And here comes this guy, hey, I'm Jen's husband. And it was interesting. I think at the time we started talking and you were kind of early in your career of your, what you wanting to do and getting ready to do and the big buildup, and from a standpoint, I was really in the same position.
Yeah, absolutely.
To start something and build on start a foundation and build onto something. And I think we both certainly found a commonality over two guys that really want to achieve stuff.
Yeah,
Right. The status quo just wasn't going to do it.
absolutely.
And then we sort of had that common bond, and then it helped that our wives were good friends. And I could really truthfully see a lot of me in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got along, well immediately.
Yeah. It's crazy because, a lot of times and we started a family and when you have little kids, your world just, kind of blows up, right? In a good way, right? You
Mm-hmm.
just got stuff, right? And then we had 3 kids and we went from man to man to zone and it was a lot. But we always stayed in touch,
Mm-hmm.
right? And every time I call you, would always ask how their kids are doing, right? Just easy things, right?
Yep.
Authentic and that respect that we had for one another was pretty cool. And I think, that's why friends, that's why I think true friends really work, right? Because there's that true passion, there's that true desire. We had a common bond that we wanted to achieve some things
Right.
in life. And also too, I got to be honest with you, as we were friends, it hasn't been easy over the years either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the neat things about you and I is it's not always been, a joyride. But I think also too, we've supported one another, and those joyrides have kind of got us to where we are today in terms of, what does success look like? And
Right.
it's not all about the money. It's not all about the passion. It's a combination of a lot of things. But success to me is truly doing what we're doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
About what we're about to talk about and some things that we've gotten ourselves into, so I appreciate you as a friend. You just need to know that, and you always tell me how it is, right? That's what I really love about you, and I think it's you're a friend that we still know how to laugh,
Right.
And I think a lot of people, I find myself often, it's crazy, but like I find myself like I just need to laugh more, and I feel like when I'm around you, like I mean we're laughing a lot.
Yeah. That's true.
And so I think it's fun, and of course, our wives get along, and so I just think that's why this relationship works, right? Is that we can work together, we can have fun, we can be friends, and we can support one another. So that's why I wanted to have you on. I wanted to have
we
you
can
on.
also get after each other.
We can get after each other, right? That's part of a sustainable, healthy
Yeah.
balance in a
And
relationship.
it's funny because it doesn't mean I don't love you any less.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
In fact, sometimes it's more.
Yeah, no, I tell my kids all the time, or I try, that life is not easy. It's just not. But you want people in your corner. You want them to speak the truth.
Yep.
You want them to be honest with you, and you want them to win with you, to lose with you, right? I mean, it's a hard battle out there, this thing called life. And I'm proud of you, man, for what you've done and where you've come. I guess one question before we get into the game of golf, right? Because I think, we both have this passion for golf. It's important enough to me that I've kind of said if there's 3 pillars on this podcast, golf is going to be a part of every episode, right?
Yeah.
In some form or shape. Not the success of my golf game on the course, right? That's a TBD, a work in process.
We're gonna get that better.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that. But just some simple, relatable things about like how does golf relate to life, and to have the audience lean in a little bit about that. But just real quick, what has been your favorite place in your journey so far? Where you've worked, who you've worked with, and why? Right? I mean, in the golf industry. Tell me, is it been a person that you've worked with? Is it somebody that you've coached or trained along the way? Give us something just that they don't know about you that like, what? When I was here, so-and-so was just incredible in my life. Who comes to mind?
Wow. That's loaded. It's
Nothing like dropping a little.
I mean, it's
something I didn't tell you about.
Right. You look at 25 years of this collective
Yeah.
plus experience, right?
And you've worked with some amazing people, right?
As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of, the guys that sort of, fostered my early golf
Right.
as a little snot-nosed kid on the range
Yeah.
eating a hot dog.
Yeah.
All the way to, my move, Ashley and I's move to Hilton Head.
Right.
And everything in between there. But, it's to me, it's really about people. If I have to break it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's funny with people is that specific times in your life, a certain someone comes into your life, and it really adjusts the way you see or view things,
Yeah.
right? And it's funny because, there's a phrase, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear,
Yeah.
right? And I'll never forget, I was working at Moss Creek in Hilton Head, and I was so excited, by the way. Like, I was teaching golf. It was Hilton Head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at this cool club, and it was really one of my first jobs of, really getting into where I was going. And this gentleman came up for a lesson, and he drove in from Columbia, South Carolina. And I'd never had anyone come see me take a golf lesson that had to drive any more than maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And he drove hours to come see me, which shocked me. Right. How does this happen?
Yeah.
And he'd played in a tournament. He was in Hilton Head. Didn't play so well the first round. We had a lesson, and he shot 74 the second round and was very happy. Well, once a week, he'd come down, and he'd take lessons from me. And we got to know each other, through that process. And I ended up calling these Lewisms.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're talking about
Yeah, of
Lou
course.
Miller.
Yeah, of course.
And, sometimes when people talk to you, they might have the greatest advice, and they're very well-meaning, right? But for whatever reason, the words don't hit home. It just doesn't connect. Well, for whatever reason, everything that Mr. Lou said to me
Mm-hmm.
clicked.
Yeah.
Right. So here I am with, I don't know, at the time, we'll call it 20 students,
Right.
maybe. Right. And Lou would say, hey, have you ever thought about this? And it just made sense.
Yeah.
40 students.
Yeah.
Bam. He'd come back the next week, and we'd have this lesson. And at the end of it, he'd give me this little talk, and all of a sudden, bam, 60 students, 80 students,
Started
like
to
every
grow.
single time.
Yeah.
And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And not only has he, been an influence on my teaching, right, but a major influence on my life. And I would say that Ashley would tell you the same. But
Yeah.
there's not a decision that we have made, and we'll be married 21 years. Well, we've been married 21 years. There's not a decision we've made since we met Lou that hasn't gone. We haven't run something past him before we've done it.
Yeah.
And he really changed my life in the direction that I thought it could go. He actually had a bigger vision than what I had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he actually opened my eyes to, what, you can do more than what you're actually thinking about doing.
Yeah.
And
have fun while you're doing it.
And have a lot of fun while you're doing it. And that, Lou Miller is definitely worthy of, he gets a Heisman in my world.
When I think of Lou, the first word that comes to me is iconic.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, every time I see him, he's the same. He's positive. You hang on every word that he says. Yeah. You know what I really love about Lou? He's been so successful, and nobody knows it.
You got to hear this. Can I tell this story?
I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it, because I know how successful it is, but he's never once said anything about it. And I just find great value in some of the most successful people that I've been humbled to meet. Don't tell you a single thing about themselves.
Yeah.
Right. It's awesome.
This is crazy. So I'd been teaching him, I'm going to call it 2 years.
Right.
Right. We've had Easters together. We've had dinners together. Like, we've spent time. Right.
Yeah.
And his son comes out for a golf lesson, Brent, who's a great guy. And Brent had this golf bag from Wolf Creek Golf Club.
Yeah.
It's outside of Kansas City. And I'm looking at this golf bag, and I'd spent some time in my career in Kansas City, and I knew Wolf Creek. I couldn't figure out how Brent would have a Wolf Creek golf bag.
Yeah.
And I'm giving Brent this lesson, and I, keep in mind, I've spent all this time with Mr. Lou.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm teaching Brent, and I can't get over this golf bag. I said, where did you get that? And he says, well, I got it from Mr. Bury. Well, Mr. Bury was the head golf professional at Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
And I said, I know Mr. Bury. How do you know Mr. Bury? And he just, right off the cuff, he said, oh, my dad hired him for his first head pro job. And I said, what are you talking about? His first head pro job was in Pinehurst. Yeah, my dad was a director of golf at Pinehurst. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
You know, just all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? And so, of course, I get home, right, and I'm Googling, I'm researching,
Yeah.
right, all this stuff. And here's Lou, 1976 PGA Pro of the Year, founded all these different golf schools. He's hired some of the great instructors, Hall of Fame instructors,
Yeah.
to work through Pinehurst, names like Hank Haney,
Mm-hmm.
pictures with him. And I don't know if anyone ever has this. There's literally a picture with Ben Hogan, Lou Miller, and Muhammad Ali in the same picture.
That's pretty awesome.
Like, I can't imagine that, right?
Yeah.
And so Brent sort of put these pieces together for me. And I say nothing to Lou about this. Nothing. Well, Lou comes out, I don't know, a week later for his lesson, and he's, all right, coach, what do we need to do here today? And I just put my head down. He goes, what? And I said, Mr. Lou, you've forgotten more about this game than I know. And his head just dropped.
Yeah.
Right. And he said, what'd you hear? And I told him, and he says, well, you're ready. I said, ready for what? And this whole training thing started from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was, and I would have never known all that advice that he was feeding me.
Yeah.
Right. I just figured he just kind of knew stuff.
Yeah.
I did not know that it actually came from been there, done that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At a very high level.
Well, and I think it ties back into he's a friend. He's been impactful. You trust him. He creates a legacy because you've coached some amazing people, right? Mm-hmm. We won't name drop on this podcast, but you've been,
you can throw some out if you want. It's okay.
Well, I'll let you throw them out, but you've been blessed to be around some pretty successful people in this world and this globe. And what I love about you is that, somebody that we both respect, obviously you're closer to them than I am, is somebody like Lou and his pedigree. And again, I think he's an iconic person, mm-hmm. right? And we saw him recently at a grand opening, and it was great to see him and his wife and everything else. So good story. Good guy, right? Really good guy.
One of the best.
All right. So let's talk about golf, right? Because, I believe there's a lot of people that are passionate about golf. I often think about, golf can be a lot of different things. And to me, you're very authentic, you're very natural, and you're very honest about golf. Not only about the swing, right? But, some of the impact that golf can have on life mm-hmm. too, right? And I think golf is, the more and more I get older, I hope I get wiser. Some may disagree with that, but that's my goal, right? Mm-hmm. To become wiser. But I also think that, as I start to really learn about golf and learn about myself, and as you know, some of my family plays golf and
at a high level.
Yeah, at a high level. And so I've been able to watch all that. And I always haven't been the best, right? And how I support them as a dad. It's been a learning experience for everything. But I look at golf and I take a step back and I'm like, man, golf is just like business. Right? I mean, you hit good shots, you hit bad shots. When you hit bad shots, you got to think about how the heck to hit a good shot. Mm-hmm. You got to make decisions under pressure, and they're hard decisions. Your heart's beating the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, well, man, I live that life every day.
Yeah,
I just sit behind a desk and wheel around and have the fortunate pleasure to lead an amazing organization.
Yeah.
So pick some highlights for me about golf and talk about how golf mirrors life and business, right? Like what comes to your mind, as somebody that's out there and listening to this and saying, you know what, I never thought about that. And I'm 40 years old and I still listen to things and I'm like, how the heck did I just not figure that out over the last 25 years? But it takes one thing just to listen to.
Yeah.
And you hear it and you're like, the light bulb goes off, right? And some may go out and whack 400 balls to figure it out. But what does golf and life mean for you? Like, it's been a huge part of you, right? I mean, we talked about Lou, mm-hmm. but like, what is golf and life for you as people are listening to this? Like, what does that mean? Like when you think about life and golf and how it relates?
Well, I think there's a couple things here. Part one, what I love about it is that you get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
Golf is very true that way, mm-hmm. right? So, it's not like riding a bicycle. Mm-hmm. I mean, once you've learned, you can always kind of do it. You can learn golf, and then not play for 2 years, and it will feel like you've never touched a club a day in your life.
Yeah.
Right. and it's an elusive game. It's sort of it's the never-ending challenge, right? And I always tease people, especially if they're new to the game, and they say, "What do you think?" I said, "Do you like a good challenge?" And if they say, "Well, I don't know, what do you mean challenge?" I said, "Well, it's tough. If you like to get up every day and kind of grind a little bit, golf's probably the game for you. You're gonna like it, the figure it out stuff, right? The read between the lines, you learn a little bit about yourself at the same time you're learning a little bit about the game, and you're blending those things together, and it creates your kind of recipe. That's what makes golf so special, because the recipes, right, they're so different. What motivates one player could not motivate another, right? And at the end of the day, we're all climbing up that hill, and that hill's basically covered in ice, and you're slipping and sliding and falling the whole time, and you just have to keep getting back up.
Yeah.
And I think you watch golf on TV, right? And the same player, obviously, Scotty Scheffler is winning a lot.
Right.
That's impressive, to say the least. But the same player does not win every week, right? It's not going to happen, because golf's going to beat you more than you beat it. And so at the end of the day, you're basically trying to get your licks in where you can. And when you do have those successes, there's something about the level of difficulty to the game. And that when you do have those successes, and those successes are different depending on the player, right? Everyone's green jacket's different. So someone's green jacket might be, getting over the water on the 13th hole, right? As long as they do that, they're
golden.
It's the biggest achievement for them, and that's great. Someone's might be making a high school golf team, or becoming, maybe like your daughter, like to be a college All-American, right? Something like that. The goals change depending on the player. But the cool thing is that it always involves the goal and the chase of that goal and the hard work to get to there, and then rolling with the punches as it goes, and knowing that sometimes you're going to have to pick yourself back up, occasionally more than once.
Yeah. I often look at, again, as I mentioned earlier, I have the fortunate pleasure to lead an organization of 40 plus people. And it can be hard at times, right? And you have that responsibility and that weight, and I often tell some people privately, sometimes you get lonely at the top, right? Because my dad's a huge mentor for me, and I can always count on him for advice. Whether I like the advice or not, that's a different story.
Right.
But I can always count on him for giving me that, have you ever thought about this? And I often think about golfers, and again, I've been close to some of it, and it is lonely at the top, right? Because everybody's like, well, just hit the shot. Well, yeah, no, I want to hit the shot. Trust me, I want to hit the shot. Like I'm not trying to hit bad golf shots, but that's how hard the game is, right? And I often watch, I used to tune in on Sundays. Of course, when I was growing up and Tiger was in the hunt, I would find a TV on Sunday. Right, it was just TV.
You and everyone else.
You had to watch, and I haven't felt that sensation in a long time. Right, and then maybe because of my life got busier, but golf is hard. It's hard, and I think life is hard too. Right, life is hard, and if I think about every shot is never the same. Right, just like you said, no people don't win the same tournament. Scotty Scheffler is kind of the phenom right now, but every shot's different. Right, you get up, there's a different set of wind variables, factors, the guy standing on the green you may not like, you may like him. It's amazing what goes through your mind. And to me, it's it's something that I reflect on, and I've been reflecting on a lot. And that's why I'm so excited to kind of bring golf into the podcast, because, I think as people relate things, right? Sometimes if you're going through things in your life, you're always kind of listening. There's 10 million podcasts out there, right? But you're always trying to listen to something that you can relate to what you wake up every day and do. And life isn't easy all the time. New Year's resolutions are real, right? You go to the gym membership, and then, 75% of the people don't go, 2 weeks after. But golf is that journey. And I love to see people in the golf industry, and I love to get your input on this. I love to see, because you have to have a passion and love for the game, because practice is a thing in golf. There's very few people that that can just, pick it up and go play and be competitive and win golf tournaments. But talk about the work ethic it takes to be successful in golf. How do you teach your students, right? A rising student that's coming up. What do you tell them? Lean on that advice of somebody that just walks to you and says, I got this. Yeah. Right. And then they go to the first tournament and like, you're like, oh, well, how'd you do? Well, I shot an 89. Well, yeah, I saw that coming. Right. But what do you tell people?
This is a fun conversation to have for me, because frankly, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I think that, a competitive environment in anything is obviously heightens everything. Right. And then golf, you're on an island, you're solo, there's no team.
Yeah.
Right. So if you miss a putt, it's not like someone else can step in and hit that putt for you. Right. Or if you tweak your ankle, you're going to have to play, with a sore ankle for the next 17, 18, whatever it is, holes you're playing. You have to deal with it, and you have to learn how to be your own biggest cheerleader, right? You've got to learn how to. This is going to sound funny. You have to strategically learn how to punish yourself, and what I mean by that is you have to take those lumps, right? Because those lumps, those mistakes, it's a learning curve.
Defines you.
It's a process, right? And so you got a round that's going great, and everyone's had it, right? And all of a sudden the wheels fall off, right? Could be in a tournament, could be just playing with your buddies, whatever the case is. And what did you learn about when those wheels fell off? See, that's the thing, right? It's going and putting yourself in those situations to drive and try to succeed.
Yeah.
But yet when you fall short, which we all do.
Yeah.
Right? What did you learn? And now, next time you're presented with that, what skill set do you have now to sort of attack that, right? And so I think that's a big deal. I also think golf's funny because you're oddly enough, you're almost never as good or as bad as you think you are.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've seen it with your family, and they play in some big tournaments, right? And they'll come off the golf course, and how was it? That's horrible. Yeah, I shot 74 today. It was awful.
Yeah.
Well, the leader shot 72.
Right.
They're 2 shots back. Right. Maybe the wind was gusty that day. Maybe the pins were in some tough spots. They feel like they didn't get anything out of that round when in reality, they're only 2 shots off the lead.
Right.
On the flip side, they could go out and shoot 67. I had a great round. It was good. Well, the leader shot 61. Right. And there's about 17 66s in front of them.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going, wait a second.
Yeah.
So it does give you that, that give and that take, and knowing when to roll with the punches is mightily important.
Yeah. I love golf. I've been very close to it. I think golf teaches you to believe in yourself.
Sure it does.
Right. There's a lot of doubt in golf. Right. And I think, there's a lot of insecurity in the workplace too. Right. And one of the things is over my career, and I've been humbled here the last 8-9 months, like we've been going on rapid growth, right? And so I've spent a lot of time in strategy and spending a lot of time on building teams of people, and that inflicts change, right? And change brings fear to people, right? Like that people don't like change, right? And it creates doubt, and doubt when you get into the golf game is a dangerous space to be in. And so that's what I love about golf. And like, it teaches you to believe in yourself. And I think, I tell my wife privately sometimes, I wish all my kids played competitive golf, right? No, but I also understand every kid is not the same.
Right.
Because I just believe that what golf teaches you of hard situations, incredible moments that are followed 4 minutes later by hitting it in the water, and your soul just goes bottomless. But how do you pick yourself up, come back, hit another shot, to get within contention or to win a tournament or whatever it may be? And I think, to me, I think that's why it's such a great game, and it's defined so many people, right? The Golden Bear. So, I respect the fact that you've been in golf for that long, and then probably have had some amazing conversations. I have a fun question. Like I said, you've coached a lot of really neat people. Who's one of the most prominent people that you can say that you really had to give some advice that, like, I can't believe I'm telling this person this piece of advice?
Wow. Peyton Manning.
Okay. Who's he? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I think he played a little football.
Yeah.
He's a really good man.
Yeah.
And I got to know him in Denver.
Yeah.
and taught Peyton. But I'll never forget my first lesson with him. Peyton's right-handed,
Yeah.
obviously, and could throw the snot out of a football.
Yeah.
Clearly. And I'm watching him hit a golf ball, and there was no zip on it.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was our first lesson. There was no zip on that thing at all. And for him, his swing shape, and not everyone's going to do it the same, right? But for Peyton Manning, I'm watching him, and it's all left arm, left hand. Everything was all left sided.
Right.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer with his right arm.
Right.
Right. He's got some athleticism there, let's say.
Yeah. Just
right?
a little. Yeah.
Right. And I said, Peyton, what's funny is you can throw the heck out of a football. And he said, well, yeah. And I go, but you can't move a golf club at all. Like, it's slow. It's pokey, right? It wasn't going.
Yeah.
And so I gave him a golf ball, and I said, do me a favor. I said, just toss that thing out there. And he whips it out there, kind of like you're throwing a baseball. It's just a golf ball, right? But whips that thing out there. And I said, now hold the club in your right hand and don't let go, but make that same motion. And the club goes, whistles, right? It's got some speed. It's got some whip to it. I said, now put two hands on there and do exactly the same thing you just did with your right hand.
Yeah.
I go, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You got one of the greatest arms ever in the NFL.
Yeah.
It happens to be your right arm. Let's use that in your golf game.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I bet.
He was a fun student and a really a spectacular human being.
Yeah, he just seems like I've been really admired by him. I feel like he's done a great job of just being involved in some amazing organizations, and he's what you want to see in a professional athlete, right? Like it's not to get into professional sports, but there's a lot of people that are, letting certain things ruin what professional sports was really built upon. And I feel like he's done an incredible job through his family and what he stands for.
Yeah,
right?
He's a good man. He's a good dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've even taught his son,
who's
probably one day going to win the Heisman.
Really?
He's one heck of an athlete.
That's awesome.
That whole family is pretty gifted with the athletic genes.
Yeah, I would
truthfully.
say so. Yeah.
But I will say this is a fun topic because there's me teaching someone something, right? But also on the other hand, I learn lessons from my students.
Yeah.
Right. And so David Duval is one of my students. David Duval's famous for being number one in the world, overtook Tiger Woods when Tiger Woods was, playing the greatest golf ever, Ryder Cup, won the British Open, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
And David's one of my students. And not only is he one of my students, he's become a very dear friend.
Yeah.
And I was asking him, I don't ask much about this, but David shot 59.
Mm-hmm.
Where they played last week, if you watched,
PGA
West out there. And I remember watching that tournament, and I was younger, and the earth stood still.
Yeah.
Right. There was this 59 watch, right? And TVs were on, like people stopped doing what they were doing and just glued to this thing because that's rare, right? That's a polar bear sighting on a beach in Maui.
Yeah.
Right. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So I remember that happening, and I'll never forget watching that round. And as they were playing, David had hit a shot up there onto the green. The other players in his group were like getting rulings or something was going on. Well, David and his caddy walked to the back of the green, and David had his back to the hole and the other players. And, they go to commercial break, whatever it is they do, right?
Yeah.
I remember them standing there and looking nowhere near the hole. Like he's got a putt for 59, and they're not overanalyzing it. They're not over there, testing the wind, whatever it is, right? He's literally got his back to the hole. And I said, David, I asked him, I said, I got to know. I go, what in the hell were you doing? I go, what is going on? He goes, well, Shane, he goes, I'll be honest about it. And I said, okay. He goes, I knew what that was for. I really wanted it. Right? Who wouldn't?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, he wanted it bad, right? He knew that putt was for 59. And he goes, I've been putting well all week. And he goes, I didn't want to turn that putt into something more than what it was. Yes, it was for a 59, but it was a 12-foot putt, whatever the length was, right?
Yeah.
He goes, that's what it was. It was just a 12-foot putt. He goes, and all week I knew that my first look was my best look and the only look I needed.
On the putt.
He goes, so I got up there when it was my turn. I gave it one look
He hit
and
it.
went.
That's awesome.
He goes, my first look was my best look and the only look I needed.
Wow.
And you think about that, and I've watched players I've coached. Hell, I've done it myself, right? You get a putt, whether it's for birdie or a nice front nine or whatever it is, and now all of a sudden, because you've increased what that means, the meaning of it now has gotten more important to you.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to look at it a little bit longer. Maybe you're going to look at it from the back of the hole, from the front of the hole, from the side. You're going to walk it off.
Good old analysis paralysis.
Oh, right. You start doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. He stuck right with the horse he rode in on.
Yeah.
And didn't change and drained that thing. And I think that there was something to learn from that statement.
Absolutely.
My first look was my best look and the only look I needed. That's and I say this here to you in this podcast, right? I will tell you right now, I don't think anyone knows what I just said.
Yeah. That's cool.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a great takeaway, right? For golfers, competitive golfers, that first look is probably the best look, and I think about decisions, some hard decisions that I've had to make over my career. Man, you overanalyze those things and then some. And when we reflect on them, why didn't I do it a long time ago when I was ready to make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
Because I got nervous and I doubted myself. And, so I think that's that 12-foot putt, take the first look, right? I think that great story, by the way.
A lot of trust in that, by the way.
A lot of trust. And I think it's, a good conversation about golf. I know golf means a lot to both of us. You live it every day. I try to play it, right? Infrequently. I'm trying to change that. There's something that you and I are involved with.
New clubs coming.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm ready. I'm there. I'm ready mentally. I got a good coach, right? And he's going to put me up to good things. So
we'll get you there.
No pressure. So so the takeaway from that is golf and life mirror one another. It's hard. You struggle, and you take one shot at a time, and it's kind of how life is, right?
Sure.
It's not fair. A little luck involved every now and then. And so let's talk about that luck, right? Because I believe you and I don't know if I call it luck, but there's a little bit of luck involved in a phone call that you made to me one day. And it's something that, we talked about friends, we talked about golf, and what that means, that trust and that legacy that we're creating. Well, we've got something that even more that kind of defines that, right? We've kind of put that in motion a little bit, right? And what started as, you and eating a hot dog when you were younger, and that morphed into your life and career. We've got something that we've worked together on, or we're working together on, and creating and building a culture, right, based on things that we've learned here in a project here in Greenwood, South Carolina, and I would be remiss if we didn't talk about that, right? Because I think it's kind of the the belle of the ball, the cherry on top for my career, for our relationship. And it's called Olde Eight, right? Olde Eight is something that's it's currently in motion, and I'll let you kind of tell the story, how it came about. I think it's a phenomenal story. To your point about the 12-foot putt, I'm sure a lot of people don't know how Olde Eight came together, but you're going to hear it right now about how Olde Eight came together, and then we're going to talk about just the culture, right? About the culture that we're trying to create in Olde Eight, of why is it different, right? Why is it? Everybody can make to your point, everybody can buy golf clubs or buy the best equipment in the world, but how do you use them? How do you put that to work? Like, what is the significance of you waking up every day, to perfect that golf swing? We're doing that with a real estate project called Olde Eight, and so tell the story, right? I'll give you the honors to tell the story, and if you don't tell it the right way, I'll intervene. I'm just kidding you, but tell the story about Olde Eight, right? And that call that came to me one day, and then we'll get into a little bit about what is Olde Eight and where we're at.
So earlier I've been fortunate to have been at some pretty impressive clubs over the years as their director of instruction, and loved all of it, right? But each one of those places has given me takeaways, right? Things I've learned, things I liked, things I didn't like, and along the way, and you and I even talked about this a million years ago. It's great when you basically you've got the ball in your hands, right? When you're going to make the decisions, those are the best times, right? And in the private club business, I had a lot of freedom to do what I did, right? But at the same time, there's boards, there's committees, there's all kinds of things, and it's not that I didn't enjoy my job, but at the same time, I thought I think we could do something cool here. Like we could maybe make this better, right? As great as those places are, I thought we can do this better. It can be done better. It can be done a little different. And so I got to searching, right? And I get on these lists and I'm getting these emails. This course is for sale and that course is for sale, because the only thing that made sense to me was to buy something.
Right.
And at the time, it actually started as looking for like, I don't know, 25, 30 acres, put a driving range and a putting green and call it good. A taco truck. I don't know.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it really started kind of small, right?
Caddyshack 3, right?
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Exactly.
And so I'm looking at something along those lines, and then I start looking at these course listings and looking at different things that kind of make sense that, or things that don't make sense, right? They all kind of go into the blender, right?
Yeah.
And end up calling you one night and just checking in, and you asked me what I was up to, and I said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, I want to buy a golf course. I'm trying to buy a golf course. And you said, "Well, where do you want to do it at?" And I said, I'd love to come back to the Carolinas,
right?
South Carolina in particular. I said, I'd love to come back, but it's got to be the right thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a day or two later or something, we got off the topic and you're talking about the kids and Ashley and, and that kind of thing. And it was a day or two later, I think you got back to me and you said, "Hey, I got an idea." And I remember you and your brother had gotten the place on the lake up in Greenwood, and your families were spending a bunch of time and enjoying it, and Ashley and I talking about coming to visit y'all there, right? And you said, "Hey, there's this golf course that the owner, it's not for sale, but he'd really like to sell it to the right person," and you connected the owner of that golf course with me, and he and I had an hour and a half long conversation, and then one thing led to another, and here we sit today with something kind of special.
Yeah, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday, and it was a fate conversation, right? As I've learned in my life to pay attention to the signals. A lot of people would say I'm hard headed. I may or may not listen to what I want to hear when I don't. And God created me the way He did, right? I don't want to change that, right? There may be a few things I'd like to tweak or a few levers I'd like to go back and have that conversation with them, but it is what it is, right? But I believe in fate, and privately, a lot of people know that I sat beside my bride on an airplane, right? That's my wife, and so I remember that conversation and where I was in the journey, and we were up in Greenwood, and we were starting to prospect a little, and we were kind of on the fence. We didn't know if we wanted to do it or not. And then, of course, that call comes in you, and you're telling me about Mitch and how you've met this incredible human being, and that he was part of your story, and you flew down here. And I'll never forget, we rented that house, and we're all sitting there around that little table, and we're just kicking it up. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, these are incredible human beings. Like, these are, I'm just watching all this unfold. And I didn't understand, or I didn't, because it was moving fast. That train was moving pretty fast at the time, if you remember. But boys, I reflect now about some of the greatest stories of my career, or some that I didn't expect, right? That happened organically, that happened with people that I admire the heck out of and I trusted. And I think Olde Eight is a great example of those, factors and variables, right? I mean, if you look at what Olde Eight is today, and you look at that first conversation that you and I have, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's a
Mhm.
lot more.
Mhm.
And so it's awesome. It's incredible. I think it's a lifelong opportunity for both of us. Certainly our company's ecstatic to be involved in it and kind of help lead the charge on some of it. But let's talk about Olde Eight. What is Olde Eight, and what differentiates Olde Eight from a lot of the places that you've been, a lot of places that I've had the pleasure of working on. I've been some cool places in my
Mhm.
career, but we're here in South Carolina. It's one of the hottest growing states in the nation right now
Mhm.
for a whole host of factors, and that's not just next year. That's for the next 20 to 30 years. How does Olde Eight play into that? What is Olde Eight? Is it golf? Is it talk about it, right? I mean, is it what makes it different, right?
So this is the fun part for me, right? So it starts to me with the heart of it, right?
Yeah.
And the heart of it is the people that were behind it from day one,
Mm-hmm.
which is you, Mitch, Ashley, and I. Getting this thing, moving this forward,
Yeah.
right? And then what was the goal, right? The goal is to create something that families could experience for generations,
Mm-hmm.
right? That golf, always to me is going to be the belle of the ball, right? But at the same time, we all know that we've got those friends or families that two of them love golf and two of them like to do other things,
Yeah.
right? We needed to create an environment that we had multiple outlets for people to whether go hiking, whether they're on jet skis, whether they're at the pool, the fitness center, to do other than golf, right?
Yeah.
And then do it in an environment, create an environment that's fun, that's welcoming, a place that if you were to come up to visit on the weekends, when you drive away, you just want to turn that car around and go right back,
Yeah.
and do it
Absolutely.
again,
Yeah.
right? That was sort of the hook to it all, and I think we are very much well on our way to getting there.
Yeah.
That 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 initial idea, right, is still at the heart, really, of everything that we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? What it means, and to have that friendship with you and I, to
Mm-hmm.
have the friendship with Mitch, and then to use everyone's expertise, right, at the same time, to kind of blend to this perfect storm that's created Olde Eight, which makes us unique because it's not just an idea, right? It's way more than that. It's a way of life. It's a way. It's a wave into the future, right? And oddly enough, we're pulling a little bit from the past to create the future,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I agree.
And that's the direction that we're going with it. And we found ourselves, I think, a beautiful niche in this golf space,
Yeah.
golf real estate space.
Yeah. I think about, we talked about friends, and there's that trust and legacy, and there's that support, there's that feedback. Sometimes it's healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I truly feel like that's the family of what we have, right? And that legacy that we're creating, and that opportunity that people have provided us, and whether it be yourself or Mitch or Ashley, like it's not every day is roses, right? But that's okay as we're putting this thing together and building, what I believe is an incredible legacy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I often say, we're rooted in tradition, but we're redefined for the future,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you look at the game of golf, I had the incredible pleasure to go visit, where the game of golf was started recently, and the history was just off the charts. I mean, it was just like I was just blown away.
Thick.
Yeah, it was thick. I
Mm-hmm.
just reflected on it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I'm standing here. Like this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that tradition and that golf is amazing, right? And for all the reasons that we talked about. Now it's 2026, and so what's that look like today, right? And I think when I look at Olde Eight, I wake up every day, and it's a grind to try to build teams of people to execute and work with all these incredible people and partners. And there's so many people involved, right? We could sit here and talk about it for
Smart people.
25 hours, smart people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think if you look at the team of people that we put together, not just as the ownership group or the investors, but it's the consultants, right? They have the same attitude that you and I were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
right? They bleed, right? They believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're giving everything they have because they also understand the legacy that's coming together with Olde Eight. It's a place, right? It's built on it's a community, right? That's built around people, right? And people that are believing in a commonality of something that they want to create. Now, the beautiful thing is, right, when you look at it, it's just not about golf. It's on the lake, right? All the other amenities that we're creating in terms of whether it's restaurant and wellness or a general store, a golf academy. And I want you to talk about the golf academy because I think it's the differentiator for us. But if you look at all that, that's an experience, right? And what do people want today? They want to be around an experience.
Yep.
Right? I live in an old school community, golf, gates, security officer, right? It's a model of the past, right? It's a great place. I love it, right? But I feel like Olde Eight is the model for the future of that. We have all those things, but we're expanding on that experience that somebody can come and live and play and work and eat and sleep and do it to create memories, right? Our tagline is, made for the moments. And I often reflect on that because, if as we were going through our branding process, right? The famous quote of Pat Conroy, "Tell me a story," right? If you go on our website, it's there. And I believe life is about a story, right? And I believe Olde Eight, when you look at the story that's coming together for Olde Eight, just today, right? The things that we've done in less than 12 months, not even alone what's going to happen in the next 12 months. And if people start to see that and understand the real estate opportunities that you can live there and play that golf course and stay in those cabins and go laugh with your friends on the lighted putting course or short course. Like if you just start to count on your finger all the cool things that you can do, that adds up to something that I believe is very desirable to people. And I think built on friendship and legacy. I'm biased, but I really think people are going to want to be a part of that. So, I think it's a neat project. It's a fun project. And I think, let's talk for a minute about the culture of Olde Eight. And relay that to the Golf Academy, if you don't mind, right? Because I think that's the, as we wind this thing down, right? I think the Golf Academy is a really climax for your career, for friendship, for who's involved, for how that came together. Like to me, right? This is probably a story that's never been told either, right? Because it's a true example of doing the right thing over your career, being around the right people. And now it's part of this dream of Olde Eight and culture of Olde Eight that we're creating. So, I'll give you the honors to tell that story.
So we're here today, right? Because of relationships.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And I think we've all used our relationships to get this thing moving forward, right? And when this project started going, I've been very fortunate. I've had a 20+ year relationship with Callaway Golf and their executive team. I was actually with their entire executive team at Adams Golf before Adams Golf shut down.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they've been huge in helping my career grow over the years. And so when we were looking at here, and then we did this extra property, the Fletcher property, right? And we could do this par 3 course and this teaching center and all this. All of a sudden, like, okay, this is really real. It's cool to have it, but how do we really put the cherry on top of this thing? Like, how do we really have this thing really truly make a mark, right? And I used my relationship with the folks at Callaway, with Chip Brewer, Tim Reed. They've been amazing. And, it was funny. I called them. I said, I got this thing going on.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if I told you this.
No, I don't think so.
So I said, I got this thing going on, and we bought a golf course and we're doing this and that. And I want to come hang out.
Yeah.
Can I come visit with y'all? And so Alex, our head golf professional, Mitch Kovitz, our financial hero,
right,
and I flew out to Carlsbad and had a full day sit down with the executive team at Callaway.
Yeah.
And I said, here's what we're doing. Here's who's involved. And, I said, look, my wife's running things.
Yeah.
And they all know Ashley.
Yeah.
Right. I said, one of my dearest friends in the whole entire world, Matt Green, is doing everything vertical. He knows what he's doing. He does it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Here's Mitch Kovitz, who I've taught for a long, long time, his family, his company, his kids, the whole thing. And I said, this is what you're dealing with. I said, and here's what we'd like to do. And they immediately said yes,
Yeah.
like immediately. And so one of the conversations we had when we were out there, right? So the thing at Olde Eight to me, it's this, it's cool. Is it high end? Absolutely. Right. But does it make you feel like you don't belong? Absolutely not.
Right.
Right. It is that elite feel where it's just the perfect amount of polish and sort of country at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. It's the perfect amount of both. And so when we were talking about the teaching center, you see all these things, the Golf Institute of Technology,
Right.
and it's all sounds so clinical, right?
Right.
And that's just not it. It's
Not
not
us.
really, no.
Yeah, not us.
It's not what I do. And to me it's we're looking at something that's a bigger picture, right? And so we decided to call the teaching center the repair shop.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it the repair shop? Well, it's where you go to get fixed.
Yeah.
Period. Right? You're there because you got an issue. We're going to fix the issue and we're going to send you home.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And Callaway loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, they ate that up. The repair shop, really a cool thing. Plus, not only is your swing getting fixed, it's where you go if you need your clubs regripped, if you need loft and lies checked,
Yeah.
if you want a club fitting. We're going to have one of the coolest club fitting, club building areas in the country when this is all said and done.
Yeah.
And with huge thanks to Callaway, obviously.
And all the technology that comes with that
All
is
of
going to
it.
be amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so one of the fun things will be is that when someone comes in and they have a lesson or book a fitting, whatever
Right.
it is, if they book a fitting, you will be able to leave with your driver, your wedges, and your putter in hand.
Yeah.
We'll order the irons because that's too much to try to build on site, right?
Right.
But you'll be able to leave with those products from there. Everyone's gone to the demo day and fallen in love with the driver,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they have to order it. And then that new driver shows up and it's not like the one they hit at demo day, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get the one right there, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But everyone's gone through that, right? You get to skip that step at the repair shop at Olde Eight.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just an incredible story of everything that we've talked about, right? The relationships, the legacy, the family. When Callaway came out for our grand opening of Olde Eight on November 7th and announced that we were kind of their East Coast location, that's special, right? That's special. It helps define what Olde Eight really, really is, right? It's not your average community. It's a place we're creating, right? And so people can come and experience that. They can, I often tell the story like, what's a day in the life of Olde Eight? Well, foursome goes out and cracks 18, right? They hit the tee time at 9, but before that, they're going to get a cup of coffee or maybe hitting the nature trail for a run or something like that. And those who don't want to play the golf may go down to the wellness center or the spa or take a dip in the lake, and then they all meet up and maybe go over and go to Camp Olde Eight and maybe shoot some clays or, go on some e-bikes or whatever it may be, and then come back for dinner and sit around the fire pit. It's and there's a lot of marketing material that has all that and says all that in different ways. But, at Olde Eight, it's all integrated. And because of some of the ideas that we've all had and some of the people that around it have helped weave that together, right? The Dan Kiefers of the world, the Pierce Scotts of the world, these people that are authentic in nature and their thinking and how they place make, is really, I step back and reflect on it. Sometimes you got to step back and smell the grass, right? Because the grass smells good, right? But if you're just walking on the grass all the time, like you don't take a minute and say like, you know what? Take a deep breath, man. Breathe this air, because what Olde Eight is, it is made for the moments, right? It is a story that's coming together that, everybody's got their story, right? I mean, everybody's, whatever you're selling, they got their pitch, their story. But when the story happens organically, right, through actions or storytelling or, people that get involved, like that story defines itself.
Sure.
And that's what I love about Olde Eight is that story is defining itself. And sometimes I have to remind myself, me, I'm up early and I am jet fuel ready and the rocket is off. And when I stop, right, it's hard for me to stop. When I stop, I go to bed and I rinse and repeat, right? 6-7 days a week. But I love it. And the reason I love it is because I'm passionate about it, right? And when you have passion in something, to me, it becomes simpler, whether it's playing golf, whether it's having friends, whether it's doing something like Olde Eight. That passion to me is what drives, all of us, right, to build something amazing with Olde Eight. And I can't think of everything that we've talked about and everything we've experienced. This is something that we're building, this culture that we're building, and I can't wait for as 26 comes alive. Right, it's January now. As 26 comes alive, and people really start to see what it is. I encourage people, right? Come check it out. It's celebrate it, right? Because this is a lifelong journey for people that have really passionately this led us to this point. And I think it's a good story, and you're a huge part of that, right? You're a huge part of that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think there's a key here, and when you look at obviously my deal is golf industry, right? Yeah. So when I look at the golf industry, it's not different than most other things. It's a copycat thing.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is Club A, whatever that club is, sees Club B put pickleball courts in. Well, now they get together and go, you know what? We don't have pickleball courts, and we got to have pickleball courts. And so now we got to have them, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And well, what's great about Olde Eight is that's not what it is.
Yeah.
Right. So Olde Eight is the thing where it has been thought through. It has been thought out by people that have experienced it, done it, been there, done that, seen it succeed, fail, or somewhere in between, right? And they're bringing all of those experiences to create literally the most unique experience you could possibly have as a family in one general area. And not just a unique experience, but fun.
Yeah.
Like the kind of thing that you can't wait to go to bed and get up and do it over again, right? It's just going to be that cool. And because of the people that we have and the experiences that they've had, their successes, their failures, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, right? It's lend itself to what this culture is, right? It's not that we have every answer, but boy, do we have some good ones.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree, and I just to put a bow on that, I have noticed, we talked about Callaway Golf, but, people want to be involved in Olde Eight.
Mm-hmm.
I look at some of the building partners that we have, like Builders First Source, enormous company. They're heavily involved in Olde Eight as we're working together on a platform with one of our companies called Lanthorn Homes of trying to work on, things are rooted in tradition, but how do we redefine those for the future in the building business? And then when they got involved, like everybody else started to get involved, like all these crazy name brands. Because it's a good story. Mm-hmm. It's a good story. And when you have good people and good stories, you want some of that. You want to smell that grass.
Yeah, you do.
Right? You want to celebrate that. You want to dive into that passion. And that's what keeps me going every day, right? Keeps me going every day. And that's why I want to get on this Green Scene podcast and tell the story because, I wake up every day and I still read, I'm a big Steelers fan. I read the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I'm just so bummed that they're shutting down. I'm hoping somebody gets in there because that PG is a good connection for me. I'm a diehard Penguins fan, Steelers fan. Mm-hmm. I tune in, right? That's my therapy that I watch. But there's so much negativity out there. It just drives me nuts, right? And I mean, it's even the weather people are trying to find the negative and get people all frazzled about snow or whatever it may be. But it's time to mitigate the noise. And I think if there's anything people get out of there, it's like, hey, take a pause, man. Smell the grass. Celebrate the wins, enjoy your friends. And, I guess that's what, we'll wrap this and conclude it. But, partner, I'm proud of you, right? We got a long road ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
But it's going to be fun. I think people are going to be really proud of what they see at Olde Eight. And if you're looking to take lessons out there, this guy, I think the repair shop is fitting, right? I mean, I'll have my car parked in there in a heartbeat, man. I bet you that. So, but again, thank you, right? Look forward to many years ahead. And, what I'll say to everybody out there is thanks for joining us on the Green Scene official podcast. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.